Hello everyone. In today's lesson, we're going to be reviewing some of the things that we talked about a while back. I haven't been focusing on these for the most recent weeks because I really wanted to make sure that you knew how to graph, and then this part should come easily. If it turns out after the test that this part is not easy for you all, then we'll go back over it again, and that's fine. So if you're given a graph, you need to find the domain of the function. So the domain are just the x's on the line. And it's all of the x's. That means that we find that the x's start at -4. The x's are going to end at 1.5. So we want our x's to be between, our x's, not the y's, to be between -4 and 1.5. And we see that there's a closed dot, so we will include those numbers. Remember a question like this: if we give you the equation and we tell you that the domain is this, that means use these x's to find some y's. Well, how about we eliminate some answer choices? If we have 5 numbers in the domain, then we should also have 5 numbers in the range. So it's definitely not going to be B. It definitely won't be B, at least for this one, because the equation uses x and y. It would have been B if it was just like x equals something or y equals a number. But this one is 2x plus y equals 7. The easiest number to plug in would have been the number 0, and if we plugged in 0 for x, we would get y equals 7. They all have y equals 7, so we're not going to plug in 0. Let's plug in the number 5 for x. 2 times 5 plus y equals 7. 10 plus y equals 7. That would mean that y is equal to -3 once you subtract that 10. D has that. A does not. C does not. D is the right answer then. For every number that you plug into the domain, there should be an answer in the range. That's the purpose of domain and range, is that if you plug those numbers in, you should be able to get something back out of the equation. We'll do one more for my graph. Or no, we'll just do this one about taxis. We have this equation, and it represents the price you're going to pay if you go on a taxi ride. Which one of these would not be a reasonable domain value? The x is the domain. Domain is x. And it says x is measuring the miles. Well, could you go 2 miles? Sure. Could you go -4 miles? Maybe. Could you go 6 miles? Definitely. 24? Definitely. The only one that was a maybe was this -4. A taxi in this specific situation would never drive you -4 miles. They're going to measure the distance and be like, hey, I took you 200 miles, or I took you 1.5 miles, or I just took you around the block, which was 0.4 miles. If you're given a table, you should pick those specific numbers for the table. This one's talking about range, that's y. So you will only use those specific numbers for y. Not every number, only those specific numbers in your range. Let's review the next part. Direct variation. If you have a table, and if it is direct variation, then it should be the same number every time. X and y should vary directly, so that you should only have to multiply. And if you look at those answer choices, none of them say just multiply. So this question is actually wrong. Let's look at number 3. we have somebody that's running 6 miles, and here's a table. They have 0.25 miles, they have a half mile, and they have 0.75 miles. And then they're saying that it took them 120 seconds. These are the X's, these are the Y's, because the time it takes for him to run is going to depend on how far he's trying to run. So X is independent, Y is dependent. He's trying to get to 6 miles. So what we can do is we can find the pattern here from 0.25 to get to 120. That's going to be a big multiplication. But we can do it. So Y is equal to KX. That means that 120 is equal to 0.25x. I'm actually going to keep it as 1/4, because if I keep it as 1/4, then that means that 1 divided by 4 is multiplying x, and that means that the 4 is dividing. 4 is on the bottom, so if I multiply by 4/1 on both sides, then I'll get 480 is equal to x. Oh, I used the wrong variable. So 1/4 is in the place of x, and we're trying to solve for k. The math didn't change because we still would multiply by 4/1. It's just that 480 is going to be what we use for k. That's how long it's going to take him to do 1 mile. So now if I want to find the time it's going to take him to do 6 miles, I'll do 480 times the new x, which is 6. 480 times 6. If we look at these answers, they're all in minutes, but this 480 is in seconds. So let's convert these seconds into minutes. 480 divided by 60 seconds will make 8 minutes, which means that I really only need to do 8 minutes times 6 miles to get 48 minutes. That's probably a little bit more advanced than you're going to have to do in your test. Something more on the level of what's going to be on the test is going to be like number 5. We have this graph. It looks like if we drew a line through it, well, we won't draw a line through it, but if we did, it looks like it would go through the origin. If they sold 60 bags, okay, well, that's off of it. So then let's just find a good, clean point to use. Like possibly that one. Yeah, let's use that. 2 bags is the x. The y is equal to 100. That means that y is equal to kx. 100 equals k times 2. K is equal to 50. So we'll do a new equation now. Y is equal to 50 times x. And the new x that we're going to be using is the number 60. 50 times 60. The only important numbers from that are 5 times 6, which is going to make about 3,000, which is closest to J. If you look at that dot, I guess it's possibly a little bit below $100. And if it was a little bit below 100, then our answer should have been a little bit below 3,000. We'll do number 9. At 5 feet tall, Emily casts a shadow that's 8 feet long. 5 feet is the x, 8 feet is the y. Y is equal to kx. 8 equals k times 5. K equals 8/5. We'll make a new equation. Y equals 8/5 x. She is standing near a tree that is 28 feet long. That's the shadow, so that's the y. 28 equals 8/5 x. So we'll need to solve for x by multiplying by 5/8. It seems like the easiest way to do it would be to reduce these two. So that's 5 times 14 over 4. We can reduce it again. That'll be a 7. This will be a 2. 5 times 7 is 35 over 2 is equal to 17.5, which is J. To summarize, whenever you're doing direct variation, you're going to use the formula y equals kx, and you probably will have to use that formula twice in a row. The last thing we're going to review is writing an equation and using an equation. If we have a table, then you should look and see if the y-intercept is in there. 0 goes with 3. That means we should have a +3 in our equation. We already got the answer. If they give you the word problem, then you should look for a keyword like an initial fee. That's a $100 initial fee, so that means it's going to be a +100. J. Initial fees are the y-intercepts. And that was in the key that I wrote for you for Monday's assignment. If we look at all these answer choices, they're in slope-intercept form, but they're a little bit out of order. But what we can do is we can look at that constant. The constant is going to be the y-intercept. So we'll just look and see. It touches the graph at +3. So that means we're not going to pick the answers that have a 2 in there by itself as a constant. Now we need to check the slope. It's going down 2 over 1, minus 2 over 1. Negative 2 over 1 is negative 2, which is B. Here we have a word problem, minimum wage of $7.25 per hour. Per hour is a rate of change. If you ever see per month or per year or per day, this is going to happen every hour, every second. That's the rate of change, which is the slope. So we need to pick one that has 7.25, multiplying the variable. And then it says plus $10. So let's pick the one that has a plus 10, which is G. Easy. Our last assignment on Monday was getting us ready to be able to turn these word problems into really easy things just by using the keywords. We'll do one more word problem. Number 11. We have an elevation. It takes 4 minutes to reach the peak. 4 minutes to reach the peak. And we started at 4692. The peak is the end, and we started at 4692. If that's the start, then that's also the initial value. Which means we want to pick one that has it as the y-intercept. To finish this question, we need to see, are we going up or are we going down? Is our rate of change positive or is our rate of change negative? Because those two equations for A and B are the same except for one's going up, one's going down. We started at 4692 feet and then we went to 5632. We went to 5632, which means we went up, we increased, which means we will pick answer choice B. All right, so I do know that this review, it's more of just examples. It wasn't really much of a review, but it's like a refresher. I hope that this refresher helps you for the test. Look through your old questions before you take the test the second time if you don't do good the first time. And no matter what you get on the test, it will only affect this progress report, and then we'll go back over whatever we need to after I see the results. Good luck.